Online dates, done plenty myself. Went on an online date and when I met the woman for the first time, her jeans were covered with writing, and she was busily scribbling on them, going, "I always have to take notes when I'm out, and my jeans are the best places." Well, it's a pretty good indicator. It's a done. It's this. This is done.
Luckily, I haven't had that many, but the one date that I recall being pretty bad is with this guy. We decided to meet at a bar, and just walking up to him, I knew this wasn't going to be a good date, and I didn't even think of that, so I didn't have an exit plan. And I was right, because the whole time, it was probably an hour date, he talked about himself. I mean, that is the only thing that he talked about. No questions about me. I mean, I realized he was nervous, but, I mean, come on. Ask me something about me.
So no second date?
No second date, and I think he was pretty clear on that, because right about the time that I asked the waiter for the check for the 5th time, I think he got the message.
Well, one I remember in particular is I got fixed up with a woman. I was living in Hermosa Beach, California at the time, and we met at a bar, got sat down, started to have a drink. We were going to go to dinner later. Not more than 5 minutes into the conversation, she figured out a way to ask me what kind of car I drove. And when I jokingly but serious, I acted like I was serious, but I was joking, and I told her that I drove a 1984 Pacer. And the look on her face was kind of the same as if I told her that I was a mass murderer, that I enjoyed keeping like Smurf dolls in my basement or something like that. So she literally talked to me for about 5 more minutes, ended up excusing herself and never came back. Now, the only good part of this story is that after she completely bailed, just by chance, I happened to have to drive a drunk friend home from the bar later that night. And this guy was super wealthy and drove a Ferrari Testarossa. So, as fate would have it, we're at a stoplight waiting to, go home, and this woman walks across the street, looks over and sees me driving the Ferrari, and I get to give her a little honk and then drive off.
My worst date story probably came immediately after one of my best date stories. I met a guy, we were meeting at a restaurant, and he was a little bit late, and I had maybe 1 or 2 more beers than I would have liked. But it was great. It was super fun. We had a great conversation. We went bowling. I won clearly. It was great. I was really excited for the second date. The second date, we went to coffee and a movie. And you know how they always say that you don't have to drink to have fun? Well, with this guy, I did have to drink to have fun. The first date was great because I was a little overserved. The second date was awful because I was not. He was super boring, super dull, not for me.
I have a bad date story. There was a girl I knew back home in Indiana, and she had gone off to school in Wisconsin. And we had just been kind of friends, but we developed a phone relationship kind of thing where we talked a lot on the phone. And she invited me to come up and visit. And it just so happened that the date that I could come up and that she had invited me for was in the dead of winter. And I don't know if you've ever been to Wisconsin in the winter, but it was 35 degrees below zero. And I drove this old beater car that was, it was running 2/3 of the time. And I drove all the way up to Wisconsin to visit this girl. And I got there, and it wasn't a half an hour before we got in an argument, and I had to turn around and go back home. And on the drive back home, I actually came down with the flu. So I made it home in minus 35 degree weather with the flu, and I stayed in bed for 2 days. That was the worst date I ever had.